Right now, it's the month of Ramadan or Ramzan in the Muslim world, which is a month of fasting. And the month of Ramadan or Ramzan happens once a year, every year. But I have questions. Who came up with this rule of fasting for a month every year? Was it Prophet Muhammad or was it someone else after the death of Prophet Muhammad? And now Jang-e Badr or the Battle of Badr is coming to my mind, and I recently read that Jang-e Badr or Battle of Badr happened during the month of Ramadan, but I keep wondering, did the month of Ramadan existed? Did the month of Ramadan exist while Prophet Muhammad was alive? And when it comes to it being the month of Ramadan during Jang-e Badr or Battle of Badr, or was it just the fact that Prophet Muhammad and his companions could have just been fasting, but there was no month of Ramadan in existence at that time? Could they have just been fasting, Prophet Muhammad and his companions, but there was nothing like Ramadan or, there being a month of Ramadan during the time of Jang-e Badr or Battle of Badr or while Prophet Muhammad was alive? Because why is it written like that in history? And is it true? Is that how it was? Or is it just written in that way in history? And who came up with the rule of starting Ramadan or beginning the month of Ramadan with the sighting of the moon? Again, did Prophet Muhammad come up with that rule? Was it Prophet Muhammad who said that or who came up with that? Because now I'm looking at Google, just doing some quick research here, and yeah, it's the Shawwal moon, the first day of Shawwal moon, which is a crescent moon or the new moon. And it's saying here hadiths or hadiths related to the moon sighting and Ramadan or Ramzan. And it's saying here the Messenger of Allah, which would be a reference to Prophet Muhammad, once mentioned Ramadan and said, "Do not start the fast or break it until you see the new moon." Isn't that interesting? So, and it's like you have to see the new moon or the crescent moon. There has to be a moon sighting in order to start the month of Ramadan or in order to begin Ramadan. And based on this sighting or based on this moon sighting, the first day of fasting for Ramadan will begin. So, are these hadiths or hadiths connected to this authentic? Because I have to even question the authenticity of hadiths or hadiths now too. Right, I'm just doing a quick search on star worshippers in Quran, the Muslim holy book Quran, and Google is giving me this, pagan Sabians, and it says among the various religious groups which in the 9th and 10th centuries came to be identified with the Sabians mentioned in the Quran, the Muslim holy book Quran, at least 2 groups were pagans. Moreover, both appear to have engaged in some kind of star worship. Now, so there's this thing about the religion of Islam and Muslims having a problem with star worshippers or star worshipping. Yet, here they are starting the month of Ramadan with the sighting of the moon. So then what does that make Muslims? And then at the end of Ramadan, Muslims celebrate Eid al-Fitr with the sighting of the moon again. So what does that make Muslims? Moon worshippers? But I'm sure Muslims are going to deny that. But how can you deny something you are practicing? So then, why do Muslims have a problem with star worshippers or star worshipping when they themselves are practicing the same thing, when they themselves are practicing moon worshipping? Because isn't that what it is? I mean, Muslims can deny it all they want, but isn't that what it is? And also, isn't the crescent moon a symbol of the religion of Islam? Now, are you going to deny that too? Are Muslims going to deny that too? Now, and what do Muslims think about the moon and the stars and the sun and other planets? Like, what is that? What is all that up in the sky? Why are they there? What are they? Oh no, hold on. Most Muslims do not bother to think about these things. They do not bother to reflect on the universe and the multiverse. And what is all that a part of? And the fact that the sun and the moon and the stars are mentioned in the Muslim holy book Quran. So then what's the problem? Why are we having such contradictions as to the religion of Islam and Muslims having a problem with star worshippers or star worshipping? Because is the problem with the sun and the moon and the stars? Or is the problem or does the problem lies with human understanding or the lack of it when it comes to all that? The problem lies in the problem lies in the perception or misperception when it comes to all of this. How are humans understanding or misunderstanding all of this? And in particular, the followers of the three Abrahamic mainstream monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, meaning Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and their lack of perception and their lack of understanding and their lack of knowledge and insight and wisdom into all of this. How are they perceiving or misperceiving it all? How are they understanding or misunderstanding it all? That's where the problem lies. Now, who came up with the no water rule for Ramadan? No water, even water is not allowed for Ramadan and for Ramadan fasting. Now, who came up with that rule? Was it Prophet Muhammad who came up with that rule? Because the human body is made up of... Now, I just looked up Google quickly. Google is giving me 60%. But let's just say the human body is made up of 60% to 70% of water. So, do you think Prophet Muhammad, a prophet of God, would not have known that fact about the human body being made of 60 to 70% of water, or whatever the, percentage is in terms of that? So who came up with this no water, that Muslims are not allowed to drink water even during Ramadan, when they're fasting, when the human body is made up of 60 to 70% of water, when most of the human body is made up of water? So then who came up with this rule of no water allowed during the month of Ramadan, the month of fasting for Muslims? Was it Prophet Muhammad who came up with this rule, or was it someone else? Because that's the kind of ignorance I talk about when I talk about ignorance. And do we think that Prophet Muhammad was ignorant, that he would come up with such a harsh rule? Especially when, now let's use our common sense here, especially when the month of Ramadan comes during summer months. And let's take the example of somewhere like Saudi Arabia, or other countries in the east where the temperatures get really high and there's a danger of heat stroke, and people dying of dehydration, meaning not enough water in their system, the people dying of dehydration or people dying of basically not being allowed to drink water even during the month of Ramadan, and I'm talking about Muslims here in, specifically. And this has happened. This happens during the month of Ramadan, where people and Muslims die of dehydration because they're not allowed to drink water during the month of Ramadan while they are fasting. And they're not even allowed water. And some Muslims die of dehydration during the month of Ramadan because of that. And you think that's what God or Allah or Prophet Muhammad would have wanted? Think again. Now, how are the Muslims and the Muslim world are going to react to this and to me? Now, you can get easily angry at me and call me blasphemous and call all this blasphemy, and then I would have to question who came up with Sharia law and the law of blasphemy. Who? Was it God? Was it Allah? Was it Prophet Muhammad who came up with Sharia law and the law of blasphemy? Who then came up with Sharia law and the law of blasphemy even? But I'm hoping that there are some Muslims out there in the world, on this planet, who would be able to take this in and who would be able to reflect on all of this with a cool head. The Muslim world and Muslims have to start asking the basic questions now. It's time. It's time to do that now. And I'm going to leave it there for this one. Over and out.